Welcome to another episode of Millennial Investing Explained. Here's today's question. What would you say to somebody that's about to start their first job out of college and is trying to decide if they should contribute to a 401k, or even to somebody that is in a career already and they're not contributing to their 401k? What would you tell them to try and convince them that they should?
I think that the first question would be, why aren't you? As opposed to just trying to straight up convince by using all the fun numbers of, hey, if you try to double down the amount that you're putting in 10 years later to play catch up, it's still not going to result in you catching up. Sometimes those work as, I feel like it's the scare tactics of the financial world. But if we look to the health industry, showing people a smoker's lung doesn't necessarily stop them from smoking. So it's not always the most effective way. My approach really would be to ask, why are you not putting money in? What are the competing financial goals? Is it lack of education? Is it just an intimidation factor for you? My very first time trying to set up a 401k, I remember filling in all the information and I got to the portal where you actually picked your investments, had no idea what to do and just clicked out. And I think that happens to a lot of people because you might not have learned anything about investing at any point. So now to all of a sudden be in charge of something that's supposed to be a retirement fund, there's no one there to hold your hand through it. You have no idea how to pick these investments. It just feels so overwhelming. We just shut it down.
Yeah, I think the lack of education is probably the biggest thing. So what would you tell yourself if you could go back now to, if you could see yourself sitting in front of that screen or somebody that's in that exact same situation? What types of recommendations for investments would you give them if they were in that situation today?
I would say I was very fortunate that I could call my parents and ask for help. And many people are not in that situation. I would say first, if you have no idea what to do and you want to talk to a human, ask whoever is in charge of the 401k plan, if it's HR or accounting or payroll or whomever, ask them who is in control of your 401k plan, what company, and see if you can call them and speak to someone there. Also, pay attention. A lot of employers will bring someone in from the 401k company at some point during the year to do a meeting. They're very sparsely attended meetings most of the time. Go to it. A lot of times, too, you can end up with just like a one-on-one with whoever helps run your 401k plan, and they can sit down and help. But I would also say if you're just trying to get started, just look at a target date fund or a life cycle fund or an all-in-one fund, whatever it's called. That's going to be tied to approximately the year that you're going to retire. Usually they're in increments of 5. So let's say, target date fund 2065. It's going to start you more aggressive and then go to more moderate and then more conservative. Now I can already sense that some people are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you just said that, because they can be controversial products. So what I would like to point out, target date funds are actively managed, which means they have higher fees. Every dollar you spend in fees is a dollar less that's compounding for you in future growth. It's something that you can technically build yourself. So you need to definitely be investigating the fees, and you could technically build it yourself. But my point is, if you have no idea what you're doing, at least you're getting started. At least it's a way to ensure your money is invested. You don't have to stick in that target date fund for the rest of your life as an investor or the rest of your time with a 401k. You can go back in later, reallocate it to something that has possibly better fees, more in line with your personal financial goals, because a target date fund really is kind of a catch-all, one-size-fits-all solution to something that really should be customized and tailored to you personally.
Yeah, I think about it very similarly. And if you're a millennial specifically, I usually think about it like just pick something that has probably the lowest expense ratio. If you really don't know and you don't have time, just pick something that has the lowest expense ratio, get started, and then go learn about it. Now more than ever, there's more resources out there to get educated. Even reach out to some people that have written books or blogs or websites, and you can get that information, spend a few weeks learning, and then like you said, you can go reallocate, and a few weeks isn't really going to hurt you.
Definitely. And I would honestly say it could even be a year that's not going to really hurt you in the long scheme of things, especially if you're younger. Just get that money invested in something. Do not have it be sitting there in cash. I have heard so many horror stories about people who are getting ready to retire, never actually invested into the market, just had it sitting in a cash settlement fund for decades. And so, yeah, maybe they had $200,000, $300,000, which is a really nice chunk of change, but that's not, I'm going to retire comfortably for the rest of my life kind of money.
Yeah, definitely get started, and you can always reallocate. And ultimately, in a 401k, you're not picking individual stocks. So even if you pick the wrong thing, it's very unlikely that it's going to go to zero like it could with an individual stock. So you're pretty safe from that perspective. So
I do want to make one point though, because you brought up individual stocks. If you have the option to invest in your company's stock, great, but do not put all or even a big chunk of your portfolio into that company stock, because then your money, both your income and your investment portfolio, is tied to one company, which is not a good idea and means you are not diversified.
And for any history, go back and look at Enron, WorldCom, anything like that, and you can see examples as to why not to do that. That's all for this episode of Millennial Investing Explained. Be sure to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, or subscribe to our YouTube channel to get even more free content.